You are about to become a man who can carry real weight without letting it crush him. Not the man who does more, not the man who grinds himself into the ground and calls it love. The man who finally understands what was never his to carry alone. Some men wear exhaustion like a badge of honor. They think the tired eyes, the missed dinners, the constant grind, that's proof they're doing it right. You don't have to live like that. You can provide for your family without burning down the man doing the providing. Here's the thing. You've been told, maybe without anyone saying it directly, that carrying everything in silence is what makes you a man. It's not. That's not strength. That's the fastest road to burnout. Real strength was never about how much weight you can carry alone. It's about knowing what was never yours to carry in the first place. A man who understands that difference lasts. A man who doesn't breaks, quietly, slowly, and usually right when his family needs him most. Why does that matter? Because a provider running on empty isn't protecting his family. He's one bad week away from losing all of it. His patience, his health, his marriage, maybe even his kids' trust in him. Burnout doesn't announce itself. It builds in silence, year after year, until the man who never complained finally has nothing left to give. In this video, we're going to cover 6 hard truths every exhausted provider needs to hear. Truths most men only learn after the damage is already done. Your kids are watching how you carry this, even when you don't say a word. 10 years from now, they won't remember the overtime hours or the extra shifts. They'll remember whether you were actually there, present, not just physically in the room. That's the legacy question underneath everything else. Answer it now, not when it's too late to change the answer. Real talk. Most men in your position will never say any of this out loud, but you already know it's true. You're tired in a way sleep doesn't fix, and no amount of coffee is solving that kind of exhaustion. This is the weight he never talks about, the kind that builds for years before anyone, including him, notices it's already done damage. You're here because you want more for your family than just survival. You want them to actually have you, not just a paycheck with your name on it. That already says something about you. This won't be comfortable to hear. Good. Keep watching. Let's get started. Number 1. You were never the source. Here's why this matters. Somewhere along the way, you started believing the paycheck is you, that if it stops, you stop mattering. That belief has been quietly wearing you down for years, and most men never even notice it's the thing driving the exhaustion in the first place. Think about a kingdom for a second. In a kingdom, the king owns everything: the land, the harvest, the wealth of the whole territory. The steward who manages it doesn't own a single acre of it. He's trusted with it. He's responsible for it. He works hard for it every single day. But he was never the source of it, and he never had to be for the kingdom to keep running. The same applies to you. You're not the source of your family's provision. You're the steward of it. God is the source. You're the one he trusts to manage what he already provided. Your income, your energy, your time, your skills. All of it was given to you to steward, not to generate out of nothing on your own strength. That distinction isn't just theology. It's relief. A steward can rest without guilt because a steward never carried the full weight of ownership in the first place. You can slow down without your family falling apart because you were never holding the whole thing up by yourself to begin with. That was always God's job. Yours is management, not creation out of nothing. Here's what that looks like in real life. It means you can take a Sabbath without the bills stacking up in your mind the whole time. It means you can ask for help without feeling like a failure. It means the next time you're staring at a shrinking bank account at midnight, you remind yourself, I manage this. I don't have to be its source. You're not the foundation of the house. You're the one taking care of it for the one who actually built it. That's what it means to be a steward of your household, not its owner, not its source, just the man trusted to run it well. Kingdom men understand that difference, and it changes everything about how they carry the weight of providing, day after day, year after year. That's the whole game. Number 2, your job isn't your identity. Listen to me. Your job can fire you tomorrow. It can downsize you, replace you, forget your name within a month of you walking out the door. That's not an insult to you. That's just what a job is. Something someone pays you to do on their terms until they decide otherwise. But there's a difference between a job and your calling. A job is what you get paid for. Your calling is what you were made for. Nobody can fire you from that. Nobody can lay off a gift God placed inside you before you were even born. That gift doesn't show up on a termination letter, no matter how bad the quarter was. Think about a seed for a moment. A seed doesn't need a company to hire it in order to grow into a tree. It doesn't need a market to approve it or a manager to sign off on its potential. It already has everything it needs built inside it. It just needs the right conditions to grow into what's already there, waiting to be developed. The same applies to you. Your worth isn't tied to a title on a business card or a line on a paycheck. It's tied to a gift that was placed inside you long before that job existed. A gift that can keep growing whether the economy is booming or falling apart around you. Here's the practical part. Start asking a different question than, how do I keep this job? Start asking, what's the gift underneath this job that no layoff can touch? Maybe it's the way you solve problems. Maybe it's how people trust you the moment you walk in the room. Find that. Build that. That's the thing that actually pays your family's bills. In the long run, the job was just one temporary way it showed up. Straight up, a man who anchors his security in a job title is one bad quarter away from a full identity crisis. A man who anchors it in his God-given gift can lose the job and still keep the man standing. You are not your job description. You never were, and you were never supposed to be. Number 3, respect isn't bought with overtime. Here's the truth most exhausted providers never hear. You cannot buy respect with exhaustion. You can work 60 hours a week, take every extra shift, answer every call after hours, and still not get the respect you're actually starving for. Why? Because respect was never for sale. It's not something you purchase with hours. It's something you earn by developing who you actually are. Think about a soldier in the middle of a long war. There's the soldier who confuses exhaustion with honor. The one who never sleeps, never rests, wears his fatigue like a medal, and slowly falls apart from the inside while telling himself it proves his loyalty. He's not weak. He's just aiming his effort at the wrong target and paying for it with his health. Then there's the soldier his commanding officer actually respects. The one who trains with discipline, thinks clearly under pressure, and brings real skill to the battlefield instead of just raw depletion. The general doesn't promote the most tired man on the base. He promotes the most capable one, the one who's sharp, not just the one who's worn out. The same applies to you. Your wife doesn't respect you more because you're running on fumes. Your kids don't look up to you because you're too exhausted to play with them on a Saturday afternoon. Real leaders, the kind Scripture actually describes, never chase respect by wearing people down with their own sacrifice. They earn it by developing a gift so real, so sharp, so useful, that respect follows naturally, without a single word of demanding it. Nobody had to ask for it. It just showed up as the fruit of who they became over time. Here's the practical shift. Stop measuring your worth by hours logged. Start measuring it by skill sharpened. Take 1 hour this week, not to work more, but to get better at the thing you're actually gifted at. Read something in your field. Practice the craft that pays your bills instead of just grinding through it on autopilot. That 1 hour will do more for how your family sees you than another 10 hours of exhausted overtime ever will. A tired man begging for respect and a sharpened man commanding it without asking. Those are two completely different men, walking two completely different paths. One of them collapses eventually. The other one gets stronger with every passing year because his strength was never running on empty in the first place. Become the second one. Number 4, Money was never the point. Look, if you've been chasing money as the finish line, here's a hard truth. You were aiming at the wrong target the entire time. Money was never supposed to be the point of any of this. It was supposed to be the tool. Think about how a manufacturer builds a product. Every tool that comes off a factory line was engineered for one specific job, tested, designed, built for that purpose before it ever left the shelf. Take a hammer and try to use it as a lever or a screwdriver or a paperweight. It fails at the job every single time, wearing down fast, doing something it was never engineered to do. It's not that the tool is weak or defective. It's that it's being used outside the purpose its maker built it for. The same is true of money in your life, used as a tool to fund your purpose, your family, your calling, your kingdom assignment. It works exactly the way it should, and it multiplies naturally. But used as the actual point of your existence, the thing you're chasing for its own sake, hour after hour, year after year, it wears you down fast, and it never satisfies, no matter how much of it you manage to accumulate. Here's something most exhausted providers completely miss. Laziness, in the way Scripture actually frames it, isn't about lacking effort. It's about lacking creativity, not using the mind God gave you to multiply what you already have in front of you. A lot of exhausted providers aren't actually lazy. They're working incredibly hard, harder than most men around them. But they're solving a money problem with more hours instead of solving it with better stewardship, sharper thinking, smarter systems. More hours isn't always the answer to a money problem. Better management very often is. Ask yourself tonight, am I managing what I already have with real wisdom? Or am I just working more hours, hoping the exhaustion itself will somehow fix the problem? Those are two very different strategies. Only one of them actually works over the long run, and it's rarely the one that just adds more hours to an already full week. That's the whole point of the tool. Use it right, and it serves your purpose. Use it wrong, and it quietly breaks the man holding it. And here's the part nobody tells you. A broken tool doesn't just stop working. It stops working right when the family depending on it needs it most. If this is hitting home right now, drop the word steward in the comments below. I want to know you made it this far. And I want other men and women reading through these comments tonight to see they're not the only ones carrying this weight. Number 5, the fear that's actually running you. This one's the hardest to admit out loud. Real talk, I've sat with men who swore up and down that their exhaustion was pure love for their family. No selfishness in it at all, they said, every single time. But underneath almost every case of provider burnout I've seen, there's a fear quietly running the entire show behind the scenes. Not love, fear. Wearing love's clothes so well that even the man himself can't always tell the difference. Fear that if you stop, even for a short season, everything collapses around you. Fear that there's not enough, and there never will be enough, no matter how much you make or how many hours you put in. Paul wrote it plainly in 2 Timothy. God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. That's what Scripture calls a scarcity mindset. Believing this is all I have, and no more is coming so deeply that it blocks generosity, blocks rest, and blocks any real trust. And the scarcity mindset doesn't actually come from your bank account balance. It comes from a heart that's quietly stopped believing anyone bigger than you is watching over the outcome. Here's something worth sitting with for a moment. In the beginning, God gave resources to the first man, and then deliberately stepped back to see how they'd be managed without him hovering over every single decision. That's not abandonment, that's trust. He wasn't testing whether the man would panic under pressure. He was testing whether he'd steward well, even when it felt like nobody was watching, even when the outcome wasn't guaranteed in advance. The same test is still running in your life right now. Think of it like spiritual warfare for a moment. There's the visible enemy, the bill on the table, the mortgage due next week, the shrinking number in the account. And there's the invisible enemy. The fear that keeps you in a state of constant combat, never at rest, never at peace, always bracing for the next attack that may not even come. Most exhausted providers are exhausted from fighting the invisible enemy around the clock, not the visible one that only shows up once a month. That's a conversation for another video. The silence a lot of us inherited from our own fathers, and how it quietly feeds this exact fear without us even noticing where it came from. Hold on to that thought for now. The same applies to you right now, tonight, reading this. The fear whispering you have to do this all yourself or it all falls apart isn't wisdom. And it isn't love either, no matter how noble it feels in the moment. It's an invisible enemy wearing the disguise of responsibility. Name it for what it actually is, out loud if you have to, and it starts losing its grip on you almost immediately. Fear can't survive being spoken out loud in the light. It only grows in the dark, silent places most men never let anyone else see. So here's something worth doing right now, not just thinking about. If this fear is one you know intimately, if you felt it running the show behind your own exhaustion, and you've never said that out loud to another living soul, tell that story in the comments. Not for likes, not for attention, because too many men are carrying this exact fear alone tonight, each one convinced he's the only one who feels it. You putting words to it might be the reason another man finally names his. That's how we stop being lonely with this. Home. Not by carrying it better, by finally saying it out loud, together, so we can learn and grow from each other instead of hiding from each other. But it's the last truth, the one most providers never see coming until it's already changed everything. That will finally change how you see yourself for good. And the last one, the one most providers completely miss until it's already too late to fix quietly. Number 6. End quote. A silent root still rots. Here's a picture worth holding on to. A father is like the root of a tree. Nobody sees a root. Nobody photographs it, praises it, or thanks it in public. The branches get admired. The fruit gets picked and enjoyed. But none of that exists without the root doing its quiet, invisible work underground, day after day, season after season, completely unseen. A real father works that same way. He works behind the curtain. He pays the bills without announcing it like a favor he's owed credit for. He shows up early and stays late without needing applause for either. That's not weakness. That's exactly what the role was built to be. A foundation, not a spotlight. Nobody stands in front of a house and thanks the foundation for holding everything up. They just live inside it, safe, without ever thinking about what's underneath their feet. That's the job. That's always been the job. But here's the part almost nobody says out loud. A root can be rotting underground while the branches still look completely fine above the surface. For a season, maybe even for years, nobody notices anything wrong. The leaves are still green, the fruit still comes in on schedule, and underneath all of it, the root is quietly dying, carrying more than it was ever built to carry, with nobody checking on it, including the man himself. That's provider fatigue in one image. You can keep showing up, keep providing, keep looking fine to everyone around you, while something underneath is slowly rotting from carrying weight that was never meant to be carried entirely alone. The tragedy isn't that it happens. The tragedy is how long it can go unnoticed, because a good root doesn't ask for attention even while it's dying. It just keeps sending up nutrients until there's nothing left to send, and then, seemingly out of nowhere, the whole tree feels it at once. Why does the root matter more than anything visible on the tree? Because when the storm finally comes, and it always comes eventually, the branches don't determine whether the tree survives. The root does. A tree with beautiful branches and a rotten root doesn't survive the next real storm, no matter how impressive it looked the summer before. Every part of this you've heard today was never really about becoming a better performer, working more hours, or looking stronger to everyone watching. It was about the root itself, about what's actually happening in you, underneath everything your family sees on the surface every single day. Real talk. You've probably spent years being the strong one for everyone else. Nobody's asked how the root itself is doing in a long time. Maybe not even you, not your boss, not your buddies. Sometimes, if you're honest, not even your wife, because you've gotten so good at hiding it that she stopped seeing the signs to ask about. So ask yourself, honestly, tonight, is my root healthy, or is it quietly rotting while everything above ground still looks fine to the people I love? This is where it gets personal. Being a kingdom man was never about carrying everything silently until you break. It was about being so rooted in the right source, not your job, not your paycheck, not your own strength, that you could actually last. Long enough to see your kids grow. Long enough to see the fruit of a generational blessing you started, even if you never fully see where it ends. A father who tends his own root doesn't just survive. He becomes the kind of root his children will build their own lives on top of decades from now, whether they ever fully understand what he carried to get them there or not. That's the whole point of everything you just heard. Not to work harder, not to carry more in silence and call it love. To become the kind of root that can actually hold the weight because it was finally anchored in the right place all along. So here's where that leaves you. Everything you just heard points back to one simple thing. You were never built to carry this the way you've been carrying it. Alone, in silence, running on a strength that was never actually yours to begin with. The exhaustion you've been calling normal, the weight you've been calling love, was never something you were required to hold by yourself. Take a slow breath with that for a second. Not because the weight disappears the moment you exhale, but because most exhausted providers never even stop long enough to notice how much they've actually been carrying. You've been carrying a lot, longer than anyone around you probably realizes. A kingdom man isn't the man who never gets tired. He's the man who finally understands where his real strength was supposed to come from all along. Not his own back, not his own willpower, not his own silent endurance, but the one who was always the actual source underneath everything he provides. That's the man you're becoming right now, just by sitting with this instead of pushing it back down like you usually do. Your family doesn't need a man who's slowly rotting from the inside while looking strong on the outside. They need a man who's honest enough to tend his own root, quietly, faithfully, without needing an audience for it. That's not a smaller kind of strength. It's the only kind that actually lasts long enough to matter, decade after decade, long after the applause for anything else has gone quiet. You don't have to fix everything tonight. You just have to stop pretending the root doesn't need tending. That's where it actually starts. By the way, if any part of this landed for you tonight, hit like and subscribe so the next hard truth finds you before you need it. Carry what's actually yours to carry. Let go of the rest. That's the whole difference between a man who breaks and a man who builds a legacy that outlives him. Until next time.